Hey everyone, welcome to Bros and Shows. I am your host, Josiah, aka Mahler67. And with me, as always, you know, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you and everyone out there listening on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts at? I hope you're having a good day too.
Yeah, I hope they are too. Just another day down, another dollar made through my job.
Ooh, same here.
Yeah. I am pretty happy though. I recently pulled back my insurance on my car to a more reasonable rate because I was over placing a lot of money on that car for what it was worth, and what honestly, if it ever got into a wreck, they would just tell me to scrap it as it is, because it's just an older car. The key parts of the car would probably not be cheap. And so if that got hit, the insurance company would be like, "Right, it's not worth it. Here's $5,000, get a new car. We don't want to pay you for all the money that you've paid us."
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you know, I just had to deal with that recently anyways because our car got totaled completely, so it's a total loss. So
did they give you money at least to buy a new car?
yeah, what they do is like if you have full coverage on a vehicle, like if you have a loan, you have to have full coverage on a vehicle.
Yeah.
That's just state law. But like I make my deductible $100. It makes it a little bit more expensive, but like if your car ever gets in an accident, like I'm not gonna be able to really fork over $500, and I don't want to. So like $100 is fine to fork over to fix. But they were like, hey, you know, like this car's total because it's got frame damage. It's a total loss. They give us $12,000 for the car because they're like, oh, this is how much the car's worth. Like if it was just a retail, like selling on a lot, like this is how much it is. We're gonna cut you a check, and then we're gonna get a hold of like the loan people and pay off your loan, and then you'll get like this much money back. So within like 2 days, I had money, and that's when we went car shopping. So it worked out.
Yeah, but you got a new car. That's all nice.
Yeah.
Top of the line model. That's what's important. Well, maybe not top of the model, but you know,
No.
you got a new car. You're able to
Yeah,
drive.
yeah.
That's what's important, not everything else. Oh, that sounds good. I just was tired of paying so much, that on top of like the loan payments and everything I have to do with things. So it's like, drop it down. I'm not driving enough to feel the need for it. And I'll just drive more cautiously. So before, 4 months, whenever I say that I get rear-ended or I hit something, and then it's like, well, gotta pay for it. Crap.
Yeah.
Life is life. What can you do?
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah. Whoa. What, you think it's gonna happen now?
What? No. I'm not gonna give you that bad mojo.
Hey, well. Mojo's mojo, man. What can you do? That happens. Austin, I guess, yeah. You know what? Get into it, Austin. This week we went a little weird with a show. This is a show / movie. It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
And it's also depend on how you view about it too, because this is our first YouTube based show. This is also our first unorthodox interactive. It's definitely unorthodox. It's also interactive. But it is everything I like about like
you get to choose your way.
YouTube. Yeah.
There
is so many different ways you can do stuff.
Yes, there is.
To the point where I'm not even sure if I've seen them all. I'm pretty sure I have because of the method I did. But sometimes like I'll rewatch it and I'll be like, did I see this? I'm not sure. This seems actually a little different. Like it's the same thing, but a little different. Did I not notice it? Like that is legitly a thing with me.
There's a guy on YouTube that actually compiled all the videos into one thing. Yeah, so like I got to see like things I didn't get to see because like there's just so much you could do. I think it came out to, I think he had like a 2-hour video of just the first part, which like, you know, that's still that's a movie.
Yeah, that's a full-on movie, which, you know, in the term scale of what we watch on like TV show, that 2 hours is nothing.
Yeah.
But when it's an interactive medium, it changes it greatly. Of course, at this point, we watched Markiplier in Space, part 1 and 2, because after me and you discussed it, I'm like, it's technically has 2 parts, but if we do just part 1,
Yeah.
I wonder, like, we could easily talk about part 1 for a long time, as well as part 2 for at the same time. But I'm like, instead of just like artificially stopping you and making you like wait a week or whatnot for it.
Yeah, just to do part 2.
Though, to be fair, when this came out, because I watched it when it came out, I was very hyped for it whenever it was coming out. I think it was actually about like 3 or 4 months before this was going to air that I started getting into Markiplier, because he played Inscription. That's whenever I started watching him, was whenever he played Inscription. I watched his playthrough and I was like, I like this vibe that this guy has. I was trying to avoid him for so long because everyone always talks about Markiplier, that it's like, man, I don't really want to watch Markiplier. Though I will say, and I am actually pretty serious about this, and it makes me feel weird to say this at the same time. I don't think I would have liked him back when he started YouTube, or like 2 years ago. Because when I watch videos of him from like 2 or 3 years ago, he has a much more like extreme personality, and that comes off to me a little bit as like, okay, like he's hamming it up. He still has that, but he is very much more like calm, cool, collected type deal thing. And I think I like his vibe a lot more nowadays, and he seriously seems like a genuine nice guy. I'm like, I can't fault this guy. He's freaking charismatic as heck, I'll be honest.
That and like his background on like his whole like how he became a YouTuber is really good. I like that whole vibe. I actually have not been into Markiplier except for like recently, actually, because of a certain video game playthrough he did, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's playing through it. And you actually told me about it, and I was like, well, of course, I'll watch it and see how he does. And then I found out that he's actually a huge fan of that franchise, like a massive fan.
He got a brand deal with his clothing company with Mass Effect, so you can buy like
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. Well, he loves Mass Effect too, but yeah, Dead Space. With Dead Space, my bad. They're all space games to me that I've never played.
Listen here, punk. No, just kidding. No,
you can feel free.
And the thing is like, what's great about him is I do like his newer videos. I watch them a lot now. Like the videos, like I totally understand where you're coming from, because when I ever first heard of Markiplier, it was like way back then, and at that time I was trying to stay away from like the top YouTubers, and the 2 YouTubers that everyone would always recommend is PewDiePie and Markiplier. Yeah. So like I was always like, I kind of like, I don't want to be on like that hype train or whatever. But then I've tried to watch his videos. Like I started watching PewDiePie for a while. He had some really good content for a while, and then he started doing not you laugh you lose challenges, and then Markiplier started doing them too, and then
everyone started doing those. Like
so like it was a YouTube
thing for like
like Jacksepticeye did that and stuff like that. So like I started watching PewDiePie's, and then I tried to watch Mark's, and I was like, I just don't think that's his format. But when he did Dead Space, I will say that was probably my favorite series of his, because it's fun to interact with people that know that game. Like I love experiencing that game with other people that have never played it before. It's great to watch people freak out and be like, oh my gosh, what the heck is that? But Mark is like, oh, look at that big boy,
Yeah, he like has no real fear. He's just enjoying the game.
And I actually tried to go back and watch like his original Dead Space, and you could tell that he's already played that game before. He's just streaming it. He still has that energy, but I think it's different now. I don't know what it is about him lately, but like he has this like very chill vibe to him, and I'm really there for it. It's kind of soothing. Like I've watched so many videos of like his new videos and stuff, so I've watched a bunch of those.
Like, okay, Austin, you know me because we do TV shows and whatnot. I don't like horror stuff. I hate horror stuff. I'm not a fan of horror games. The most I will enjoy of that stuff is psychological horrors. Freaking, I will binge his 3 scary games anytime he posts it. I don't know what it is. I just like his commentary. I will.
Yeah.
I go to sleep sometimes because I have like a mega compilation that I watch of him playing Phasmophobia with his friends, with Bob and Wade.
Which probably is a better alternative than what I remember you watching, because I know you said something about why you stopped watching Red Letter Media because Rich's voice would like
wake me up in the night. Yes,
wake you.
I would go to bed to watching
Red Letter Media.
Yeah, Red Letter Media's what is it called?
Best of the Worst. Yeah.
And if it was certain episodes, Rich's laugh would just be real loud and they would magnify it and it would wake me up in the middle of the night. And I just remember one night I was sleeping and I was like kind of groggy because I stayed up late, and I woke up in the middle from Rich's laugh, only to look at the TV and see like a demon monster on it because they were talking about some demon monster. And like that just messed with me mentally. I was like, what the heck was that, man? Monsters laughing at me. Like, I don't know, man. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of Phasmophobia. Like, I think him and his friends together are very entertaining. And that's why I think I was so excited for this whenever this was coming out, because I was just freshly getting into Markiplier. I was watching a lot of his stuff. I started listening to his podcast at the time that this was coming out. And I also started looking into his friends, Bob and Wade, because they were also in the podcast, and they were also in a lot of his Phasmophobia stuff. Basically all of his Phasmophobia stuff. And so whenever they started showing all this stuff, I was like, all right. I want to watch this. And so when it came out, the day it came out, I went home and I binged it all, and I watched every single episode, every single loop, I guess you do it. I reset all the loop, and I found it heckin' enjoyable. And ever since we were doing the podcast, I was like, can we do this as a show? Is this possible? And then basically last week, I just kind of pulled the trigger. I'm like, awesome, would you be cool with this? And we're kind of cool with that. So I'm glad we get to do it.
It's not my first time I've done an interactive thing. Like, this isn't my first time. The first time I ever did, there is a show on Netflix called Black Mirror. Yeah. They did a movie called Bandersnatch, and it's about a game developer in the 80s. I actually did exactly what you did, where I found out about it, and I went home and did every single decision that could come out of it. And I actually have the Netflix achievement at the top that says I completed this 100%, which is really cool. But it took me forever because that movie's
Netflix did achievements.
Yeah, they have interactive games now. I didn't know this, but like they have interactive games and stuff that you can play with your friends while you guys, like, if you guys don't want to watch a movie, there's like trivia games and stuff you can do on Netflix. It's pretty cool. I thought it was pretty interesting. Bandersnatch is the first one I did, and so then when you said, hey, Markiplier in Space is interactive, I was like, yes, I like interactive stuff because then I can choose what I want, and some of the outcomes can be hilarious, and this did not disappoint me.
Yeah, the thing I think why I liked so much about this is that, one, Mark's a gamer, and he's going to reference a bunch of game stuff. He's also he has a weird lore of his channel. Like, he has come up with so much stuff, and people will constantly be like, hey, this, like, apparently anytime you see blue and red together, people automatically are like, oh, Darkiplier, that's Darkiplier. Or like even Warstaff makes an appearance in this. And that was the thing. Because of this, it actually leads you to another one of Markiplier's videos as well, and I found that very interesting and fun. I was like, I just enjoyed the amount of references, the friends he got to engage with him also with the show itself was phenomenal. It was great. So awesome. Let's dive on into it. Let's start talking about Markiplier in Space. I want to know, first off, how did you feel through your first playthrough of part 1? Like, what was the general like setup that you got to in part 1?
Yeah, so the first I'm just gonna talk about like the first thing I just ran by.
Yeah, go ahead.
So of course I I put out the fire for number 1. I did that. So the life support kills me. And then it launches me back, and then I do the life support, and then I actually closed the shield because that, the future thing. So he actually survives and he puts out the fire. But then what started to happen was hilarious to me. So what happened here was like the cannons were out of order or something like that.
The cannons were malfunctioning, the machines.
And and the thing is, go fix them outside or send Mark in. And so like I clicked go fix outside and it automatically killed me.
Yeah.
Like I just launched out in space and I was like, what the heck? So I just went back and I was like, send Mark in? And so I sent Mark in, and then he's like, "Oh," and he like, "I got the guns now, guys." And then
you see all then it like lasers in his hand and everything.
It progressed to like the cryo freeze, and I just went full all in on sending in Mark because I was like, "This, I'm here, I'm set in my way. Mark is gonna get all the evilness to him." And I laughed so hard when I knew exactly what was gonna happen because it was like getting that joke going, and it's just running with it, and he sets it up really well. Because at the end of the cryo thing, like you put on the jacket, and he's like, "Wait, there was jackets the whole time."
Yeah.
And then like the core and everything like that. I just always picked Mark to do stuff, and it ended up like the ending was like I go to it was like it was a fake ending.
Yeah.
But like I go to a like planet and I send Mark to do everything all the time, and then Mark ends up killing me, like suffocating me with a pillow or something.
So that was one thing of like, okay, I got there too. I got to that ending too. The thing I like about Markiplier in space is you can tell when you hit a real ending and when you hit a like sub ending.
Yeah.
And I consider sub endings anytime that they do like a like where they are now kind of thing, where it's like paper kind of cutouts of the characters talking. So you instantly know, because there's two that really stuck out to me of the paper endings that I remember, and it's the one with Mark and it's the one with Matt Pack from Game Theory. I always think about every day of my life. I always think about the Matt Pack ending. So like that is one thing I've really enjoyed about this show, is how there are technically two true endings.
Yeah.
But there are multiple sub endings that are basically send you back through the wormhole to continue and refix what you messed up.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So you did that ending. What else did you do after that?
And so then I went in and I got the noir
ending.
Yeah.
First off,
so
I didn't see that through my first playthrough. Till like I was replaying it a couple days later, and that's whenever I decided to do the whole like I'm going to right click on everything and look at everything when I play.
Yeah, actually before that, like what was it? It's when you guys come through the wormhole again, and Mark's like, "We're invincible. Like we'll never die." So he's like, "I think I had it last time. I think."
Where he's just like jumping again.
I did every single one that I could where we just went back, and then it started looping. But there's some funny ones where he's like, "Oh my gosh, it's wrong!" Like, the best one is like his first one that he comes in, where his like body is like warping into the sun.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Help me!"
So fun fact, Markiplier in oh my gosh, what's his podcast? Distractable. Geesh, gosh. In the Distractable podcast, he talks about that loop, and he's like, that loop is going to pay for my retirement because it's like 5 videos that people just keep looping, and because the end is almost identical each time, people are like, wait, did I see that already? Wait, did I say? And they think that after like 15 or 30 videos of the same video just pasted, that they'll get the true ending of the loop.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was saying, like, if you look at the number analytics for those two parts of the loop, they are like quadruple the amount of views as all the other ones, because everyone did that. They kept looping it thinking that there was going to be a loop, because like Markiplier does stuff like that. Like he kind of like messes with them.
Stuff,
and I looped for like a good maybe 10-15 minutes until I realized I've seen this before multiple times. I don't think this is looping. And I basically like checked the source code each time, and I was like, okay, no, these are the same videos. These are the same 5 videos. I'm not falling for this. I'm moving on.
Yeah, so like I actually once I saw that image again of him like in the sun,
Hmm.
I stopped. I clicked the other one right after that. And it was like something that had to emergency meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Boom,
then
and then he
like
gets all
during
sad, and he's like, "All
yeah,
right."
all right. Well, they probably need to know. I actually chose the path of backing up into the wormhole.
Okay? So there's his two friends that play that play with him a lot. Slash are on Distractable are Bob and Wade. Do you know who Bob and Wade are?
I think Bob's the big dude, and then Wade's
Bob is
the guy
Bob is
with the
big guy.
tattoo, and he's
No.
the cigar guy.
That is not Wade.
Okay.
Wade has a single role in this show, and he is my favorite role, and I wish to cosplay as him if I ever got into cosplay.
Mhm.
Did your thing break?
No, that was weird.
What's
Oh,
wrong?
it's the reflection of my light. I was like, what is this red thing right here? And then it's just the reflection of my monitor.
Oh, it didn't look red, it just looked white. And I was like, what are you
It's-
doing? No, so that is Bob. Bob is the one who's like, back it up.
Just back it up.
Go on, back
I actually,
it up.
I went with that because he was so charismatic.
He
I
was
like,
so
I am
charismatic,
chaotic.
yeah.
I was like, I'm chaotic. I love the craziness.
Yeah. I didn't go with him saying back it up the first time I played through, and I didn't think anything of it, and I kept going, and I kept seeing all these different endings. It wasn't until I was replaying that I was like, I never did this one. Let's back it up. And then I got to see the noir one, and I was like, this is my favorite sub-universe.
Dude, it was so good. I love the part where like I clicked on the thing as like fire all weapons at the wormhole. And so then like you see like the ship that's in noir style, black and white, and it's got a fedora on, and it pulls out a Tommy gun, starts shooting the wormhole, and then the wormhole shoots back and kills us. And I'm like, this is amazing. I love that they replaced the blast shields with shades. Which is so funny. They're like blinds. I just laughed so hard. I was like, I would watch this. Let's just keep doing this. I would watch this. I love anything, like any noir type deal. So, but I got to the point where, I met the person of, I'm trying to think. It was like the person of like the wormhole. She was like an old lady. She was talking. That was the ending I got.
Yeah. You're talking about the I can't even remember her name, but she's the one who like talks you through. Like she's one of the endings you can get, where she basically like made Mother Universe or something. That
she removes the shard that I have and says like, you have already destroyed plenty now, and then the reactor core disappears, and then the credits start rolling, and that's the end of part 1 for me the first time I played through, because I kind of knew that the credits were rolling. I was like, okay, I'm going to assume that this is the end. And then at the end it said Markiplier in space 2, like the clip I could click. So I was like, okay, so I am done with part 1. That's what I got, and I was really satisfied. But I will say this, I felt a little bit I felt like it was a lot of stuff going on at one time.
Yeah.
And I feel like it didn't have room to breathe. But I still enjoyed 100%. The time I had. It's just I felt like sometimes that like I had to like it just felt like it was rushed. Like it's not that. It's just my brain is like that. I'm not in the active mode. So like when I was doing all the interactions, I was like, okay, I don't think there's time to like me to think sometimes, because I have to click like left or right, or I have to go send this person in or do this. And I was like, okay, should we wake the crew up? And I'm like, oh man, I died every single time. I don't know why. When Mark gets launched from his cryo and he just hits the thing, I don't know what it is, but how they do that ragdoll simulation, it just makes me laugh.
Anytime in the show that Markiplier goes ragdoll, or really anyone goes ragdoll, I think it's just Markiplier. It makes me giggle. It just makes me laugh. Because like there's the whole point where Danny Sexbang goes to be like, oh Captain, I'm falling, catch me, and then like he just walks past and you just see the body go flipping. Because that's something that like Ninja Sex Party does all the time in their movies, or at least used to in their old like videos that they would do. Is anytime they wanted to show like violence, Danny would become like a stuffed ragdoll, and it just was always hilarious to me. Ragnar's are funny, okay? I can't label it. It always got a chuckle out of me. Though I will say there was the point where Mark was doing all the stuff that I genuinely felt bad for making him do some of the things.
Now,
yeah.
I will say about this, Mark is taking a lot of inspiration from video games.
Yes, there are so many references.
Dead Space is a number one because there's so much Dead Space references in here. And like, it cracked me up because it's like, that's a Dead Space reference. This is all a Dead Space reference. This is awesome. I like it. That and the first person shooter part of part one is pretty funny, where Mark's like, man, these guys just don't want to go down, do they? You know, and he's doing like a cartwheel or a flip, like, and people are shooting him. He's like that kind of guy that like you just want to be in a room with, and just see what he like says, because I think that he's just generally funny and he comes up with great ideas. I think he'd be a good guy just to like hang out with.
He is very much a like super charismatic person. I think that is his biggest trait, is just he exudes like comfort, which is also funny because again, I'm a fan of the podcast, so I listen to it all the time. Like, there's so much, they're 1 billion times more popular than us, and that's fine. But he talks about how like when he meets people in real life, they expect him to be super charismatic, but he's not. He's actually a pretty like quiet person, and so like he'll just get like oddly distanced with people, and people will be like, you okay, mate? And he's just like, yeah, no, I don't know. It's like, all right, cool. But other than that, he's like super nice guy, like top of line to people. I remember him saying that. But yeah, so I want to talk about my favorite character.
Okay.
It's played by Wade, his other friend. It's Wog.
Oh, okay.
The big muscular guy covered in all of stuff. Wog, no! Like,
Wog, no.
I loved Wog, man. Especially whenever he like offers cookies and you say no, he's just like, Wog, man, stop!
I like how they go through a space drive-through too. That was pretty cool.
There's so many little things like that are just.
It
like,
reminded me of Fifth Element, actually. Yeah, like with what was it in Fifth Element? Bruce Willis has like a Chinese like. I think it's like a Japanese delicacy, like come to his apartment window.
Yeah, they have like the weird.
You are fired.
Yeah,
he's like, you are fired. You are fired.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. See you later. Bye, Corbin Ellis. You know, so like, you know, it's kind of like that. But
I love Warg, and then I love it even more when they go back to the insurance lady or the space agency, and the one girl steps out, the like space pirate girl, and then Wog steps out of like all that stuff, and it's just like, hey, it's a guy. It's like, what? No, it's a she. It's like, I'm a female Wog. Also, I will say, if you have time, just like 10 or 15 minutes, check out the blooper reels of it too, because that's highly entertaining for like the 15 minutes that are in it. And also look, I think in the blooper reels there is also like, I could be wrong, and I'd have to re-look it up, but there's like I think in the blooper reels there's a behind the scene part. Yeah. Okay, so in the blooper reels they also do behind the scenes where they talk with people. And one of the parts is Bob talking, and he gets super emotional because he's like, I don't know what's up. Like, this is just a magnificent thing to be part of, and I really feel honored that like he's my friend and everything. Super emotional, and you know me, I'm a sympathetic crier, and he starts tearing up, and I was just like, don't do this to me, man. What are you doing? Stop this. Why are you doing this?
Why aren't you making me laugh? You're laughing to tears.
It's just like, make me laugh, funny man, make me laugh. Oh, speaking about that, did you get the crying Mark scene?
I think so. Are you talking about in part 2?
Yeah.
Where he's on the bed?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was your response? There was 2 options. You could say, I'm sorry, and like hug him essentially, or you could say, hey, start mocking him.
before we get into that, like part two.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I'll tell you what I did in part two.
Okay. Yeah,
so
go
like
ahead. Sorry.
so like the thing that you see is like Markadad. Markadad comes in and he has like.
Do you know who that
jack.
is? Do you know who that is?
I know that there's lore of him.
There is full on more. When he came in, I instantly slightly squealed. Not like, oh, like I'm like, oh, like that. Like, so that person is Stan the Waterman.
Okay.
That is from his Grand Theft Auto 5 RP server playtime. In the game, he played as Stan the Waterman, who came back from wherever he was to where he is now, trying to like make a living selling water to people, so that way he can like get in contact with his strange him and his sons are separate, like they don't, like the son won't talk to him and whatnot, and he gets pushed along these RP rules with all these crazy people. And there's a point where he has to go rob someone, and he's like, yeah, man, you need to catch, like, hey, yeah, we work. He's like, thanks. It's just, buying water is pretty expensive nowadays. It's kind of crazy, actually. It's like, what you got on you? He's like, I got 32 bottles of water. And then they like go into this guy's house, and he's like, what do I do? He's like, he's like, well, that's not right. Like, we shouldn't be taking people's stuff. He's like, no, it's fine. Like, they'll get it back later. He's like, oh, okay, if you say so. He takes it, and the guy comes out, and it's like an AI guy, and he's like, oh crap, they saw us. The dude pulls out a baseball bat and hits him. He's like, oh my gosh, I think you killed that guy. He's like, no, he's playing sleep. Get back in the car. Get in the car. It's just like, it's a very fun, entertaining. If you have time, look up Stan the Waterman. Like,
I totally will.
It's so enjoyable because like, the one thing I will give Markiplier is his ability to like just come up with a story or just play along with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He does it in multiple stuff, like in the Phasmophobia games. Whenever he plays with friends, he will actually speak like he's like in the game. He's just like, oh, like, guys, I don't think there's a ghost here. I think it's all rumors. It's like, oh, they say that, guys, something moved. He's like, well, that may not be a ghost. I don't think that's a ghost. Oh, that's a ghost. That's a ghost. That's a real ghost right there. Like, he'll play along, and he does that very well. And so to see Stan in this, after I just got done watching almost like, I want to say 2 to 3 hours of gameplay of him RPing on this random server, just it made me really fun. Like I love the internal references. So go ahead, Austin. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
So he made me pick between romance and horror. Which one do you think I went with?
I want to say you went with horror.
No, I went with romance.
Oh, you picked wrong.
No, just kidding. I went with horror completely. So I started seeing like all these glitches and all this weird stuff. And then Markiplier was a murderer. That was like kind of like, so there was a reference in that. It's Dexter, because Dexter has like all these like plastic everywhere, because Dexter is that kind of killer.
Really?
Yeah, Dexter is that kind of killer that he's a police detective in the show, but he's a blood analyst, but he knows how to murder people so he doesn't get caught. So like he'll like put down all this plastic wrap and like strap them to a table and then like murder them with knives. But he only kills like people that are criminals, like that kind of weirdness. He thinks that he's doing right, but he's actually killing people still.
Okay.
So that was a huge reference to Dexter, because he also says a couple other things. But it just, I love that whole video, that part, because it was like, what should we do? And then I know, because I've checked twice, like how long that video is, but it'll say like, click these videos, and then I go to click them, and then it will like stop, and it will go to something else, and I'm like, I'm forgetting, like, I don't have to click yet. These are just like fake clickouts. So I ended up picking horror, and he like did this whole crazy thing. I ended up finding out that the girl has another part of the shard, and she was going to kill this girl. So then I ended up intervening, and I was sent back to what was it? I think it was the ship. Yeah, it was the ship. What were we talking about before? You said something about I did get the Mat Pat
Yeah, the map hat ending.
Yeah, where he was like, "Oh, look, it's time for a space theory," and I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Oh, you got that. Did you get the other ending?
No, I
Wait,
didn't get to
you
play
didn't
part
get
2 all the way.
Oh, you didn't. Oh.
So actually, the first time I ran through part 2, it actually was only 30 minutes long, but I got to go back and play a couple other scenarios.
Yeah.
Before I forgot about it, and I was like, "Oh crap, I forgot to play the rest of part 2." But I did finish part 2 twice. The one ending I did get was where Mark is at the end, and you come to find out that like he built the what's it called, like the reactor for the wormhole.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I end up in a diner. That's what it was. I end up in a diner.
Okay, the diner
like
scene.
Old man Mark.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, it's you," and then he's like, and then, like the guys that work at the restaurant are like really mean. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, you gotta always sharpen your knife," and like stare at me, and I'm like,
so I love that scene just because it's the same guy over and over and over again, and I just found that really entertaining. I like it whenever shows do that, specifically in a way that works.
Stab me. It was so funny. He's like, "Ah." I just like deter the knife.
You're talking about in the warp core scene where he's just like,
oh no, in the diner. He tries to kill me in the diner.
Oh, I don't remember him trying to kill you in the diner.
Yeah, he tries to stab you at the diner, and then he's like, "Ah," and then you hit him, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I tried to stab you."
I'm sorry.
He's like, it's been so long, Captain, and it's just like this. I also got the part where I actually show up to the spaceship, and it's completely dark, and it's got candles and like all these glyphs on the side, which is a Dead Space reference. And he walks like across an alleyway to make you like feel scared. And then he's like, "Old Markiplier," and he was like, "Hey, Captain, you never made it here. They usually catch you." And then he's like, "Maybe you didn't do all this stuff. Wait, the only person I would be able to do it is you." And he's like, "Captain, what the heck?" And then you warp out real quick. And then I end up warping to this. I don't know how to describe this.
Hold up. Did you ever get the ending in part 1 where Markiplier tries to kill you as an old man? Did you only see one ending?
As an old man? Oh no! I saw him like try to kill me as an old man. I actually went back and did part 1. Like I did all of those. I even watched like the guy's compilation, so I knew which ones I got.
Okay.
Yeah, but the one. Where I'm saying,
because that's what I always thought you were talking about. Because there's the scene where he has like the knife. He's just like, "Ah!" And he keeps going, and like he tries to pull out sand, and he gets in his eyes, and he's like, "Oh."
Yeah, no. There's a part in the diner in part 2 where he tries to stab you. Like he does this. He's like, again, and you're like. He's like, "I didn't mean to stab you again." I was just like, okay, that's funny.
I was just trying.
I end up like warping to this place where it was like this guy. It's like really foggy out, and then you get a flashlight, and this guy comes up and he's like, hey, you gotta run. The thing's after us." And I was like, "What?" And then he ends up like running this way, and he gets torn apart by whatever's there. It was kind of like Slenderman kind of deal. I think that have you seen that?
Yeah, are you talking about the one where it's like all black and white with all the pictures everywhere?
No, I'm talking about there's one where you get warped to a forest. And
yeah.
It's like this little weird creature. He's like,
yeah. Okay, I did see that. Because then it ends with the whole Markiplier around the campfire. He's just like, "It's time to tell a scary story."
Oh no, mine didn't end like that.
Wait, did you not get the camp?
No. So like, I did see that, but like my first run was I ran. So I ran and I tripped and fell over my flashlight, and then I warped out. And the ending I got first was you come to find out Mark builds the.
He makes the reactor.
Yeah, he makes the reactor, and so then you can choose to. The reactor like goes off or whatever, and so you can choose to let go of Mark, and let him reset like everything that I have done, or like find a way to like save us, or you have to hold on and then like you do something else. The first thing I chose was to let Mark go, so he goes in the wormhole, and this is the smartest thing, and this is genius. This is very genius of Markiplier. he sends you back to part 1. And I was like, I started playing it again. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I'm not being fooled here. I'm going to check this video. And I checked it and I was like, this is part 1. They send you back. So then it's like, oh, you have to play. I was like, if I would have not thought that through, I would have been playing again part 1 to get back to part 2 and then like have to do all part 1 again. And I was like, these are all part 1s.
This is the one thing to think about though. And this is why I like this show so much, right? Is if you play through part 1 and you get to that point and then you replay part 1, like you play through part 1, do part 2, and then you get back to that point, everything still makes sense whenever you do things.
Oh yeah.
And it actually adds more context to scenes, like especially the bureau girl who keeps like showing up more and more like beaten up. There's a scene where she has one of the things that she takes from you in part 2 that you don't see in part 1. And so whenever you get that thing, you're like, that's what that is. Before I thought, oh, she had one. No, she stole that from you.
So I went back. I went back to that video.
Someone else said as well too.
Yeah, I went back to that video and then I actually destroyed the reactor myself. And like I threw the thing into the wormhole and Mark was like, wait a minute. Like if I don't go back, he's like, wait a minute, I was the problem. And he goes in like this whole tangent of like, you know, I was this problem. It was me actually, Captain, and blah 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 blah. I end up like, I'm trying to think exactly how that ending works. But it was pretty much him explaining that he was actually the problem, and me destroying it led into that. But then like everything blows up anyways, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So then I'm trying to think what else. Oh, it flashes back to part 1, but this time it has an ending where like the crew can finally find an inhabited place and it looks like Earth. And he gives you a cup that says number 1 captain. And then you pretty much like put your hand on the glass and that's the end of the game. That's the end that I got. Oh, and to answer you, when he was crying, I actually chose, shut up, you wimp. You're a sissy.
You did? Oh my gosh. So whenever I did that,
I went back though just to see what the reaction was.
Yeah, sure you
did.
Of
like, hey, you're like, hey, buddy, you don't cry in here. I had to because I want to know.
Here's the thing. Like whenever I first saw that and I saw him cry, I instantly went with, "It's okay, man." And like I like hugged him, and he said like when he watched the analytics for it, that video spiked and the other one went really low, and he was like, I like my followers are very good people. That made me happy. And then after like a couple of days, it leveled out because everyone went through and then got the other option to see what it was like. He's like, no, it makes complete sense. Like it was nice to see it when it happened, but you know, you can't see that now. And I'm like, yeah, for instance, you definitely like have that situation where it's like, it's going to happen, especially with like a pick your own adventure. Everyone's going to do it multiple times. Okay, side note, this was a genius idea to do on YouTube.
Yeah.
Pick your own adventure. The fact how YouTube kind of works with the whole like video clicks with watch time and all that stuff, people will watch through they will focus 100% on something, and like you said, watch something multiple times to see if there's a difference in it, and they'll be like, I think I've seen this before. Oh, is this a little difference? Because that is the thing. There are some scenes that are slightly different.
And I think that's where interaction movies actually, this is thriving. Like this could work on this format. The problem that Netflix and most other interactive movies I've seen, the problem that they have is they don't have a promotion, but also too is when you go to YouTube, you're seeing more promotion through the people that are making it. And you're getting people that are like, oh, well, I don't have to pay for YouTube, so I could just click these. So like he's also getting ad revenue, but he's also getting like, you know, the click revenue. And I think this really works for Mark because it's a good format because YouTube's can work in that configuration, but anywhere else, I don't think it could work. And especially you're using a remote most of the time when you're on those apps. This on YouTube, most of the time, you're using your computer, like, or your phone, clicking,
you know. And both are like very reasonable to do. Did you get the Mac ending in part 2?
Now, I only got 2 endings. No.
No, it's a sub ending. It's not a true ending. It's a sub ending.
The only Matt Pat thing I got was just like the space theory one.
Oh, okay, you got that one. So in the point where I think you go left at some point, which
I went
that
right
was
all the way.
Well, that was another thing. There was different possibilities for each left and right at different points. So there was like 5 or 6 different endings, depending on if you go left or right and when you go left or right.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's also a great thing. It's equivalent of the loop, except just more intense. And no, the Mac ending, I'll send you a link to it. I have it pulled up, and I'll put it in our Discord, so that way people can don't have to mess with it. I'll just put it in the. Actually, you know what? No, I'll just send it straight to you. It's the Mac ending, and basically how it works is everything, you wake up and everything's going smoothly, and then Matt Pack turns around, he's like, oh, Captain, don't worry, I saw you were sleeping and I wanted you to be alone, leave everything to me. And then if you choose to let him do everything, he will just basically become an evil dictator and take over the whole ship and then just like control everything, and you can't do nothing, you just have to accept it. And I think he actually in change you, and it's like the whole like scene of what you want to call it, like the like pictures that are cut out done, and it made me laugh. And I always think about that, where it's just like, hey, he became a horrible dictator, thanks Matt Pat. But yeah, there's this show has some great endings. Like you have both Danny and Aaron from Game Grumps in it. Danny has made a song for this. Yeah. Where I think it's like the captain is back, I think is what.
I actually got to see one song in this, and that was a bunch of Markiplier singing at one time.
Yeah.
In space.
I think that's the Space is Cool.
Yeah, Space is Cool. Yeah.
And you know what that's from, right? That's Smoyoho. From the people who
I love Smoha.
Yeah, they did a song called Space is Cool, I think a long time ago. And they made a new version of it called Space Was Cool. And it got a bunch of like great views, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, there's another one called what is it? I'm trying to find. I have all of them pulled up so I can look at the titles for them. I'm having a hard time finding them all.
Well, I think also too, this show needs to be recognized as visually done really well.
Yes, for sure.
And the humor was on beat to what I wanted. I will say this: part 2, in my opinion, felt a little bit more smooth than part 1. And it felt like it kind of got the beat finally, or I just got warped into the beat finally. It took me that long, but like I thought Space 2 was great. Part 2 was awesome. It was very interactive enjoyment. I'm actually gonna go back and like finish the other parts of part 2 because I was so into part 1 for a while and trying to get that done, and then I didn't finish all. Part 2. So I'm gonna have to go back.
Yeah, I will definitely encourage you to go and watch all the different ones, because there are some great, amazing things. And I think, Austin, I will say this: one of the things that makes me think why it felt more well done, like felt more pieced together in part 2, was because it was fixing the loopholes from the first one that feels a little like misunderstanding. Because I remember watching playing through the first one, and there's a scene where I have the thing in my hand before I have the thing in my hand, and I was like, that makes no sense. Why does these two connect? And it's like, it's because every time you're waking up, you're changing the reality. This situation is the one where you do, this one is when you don't, and that's like it gets fixed in part 2, and then like they loop together in a very proper way that it just feels like natural and good. Okay. I highly like I like part 2 a lot. I think there's some fantastic ending to part 2. Did you get the goosebump endings from part 2?
Mm-hmm.
The one with Aaron and his narrator thing. Of that one too. Like,
narrator.
Just like, oh, no, you can't do this. I'm the narrator. I choose the. I see you found my home. Like, there's so many like great little ones like that all through it. There's also Markiplier does this thing constantly in his episodes called "Open the Door, Don't Open the Door," where he'll end the episode with the door shut, and then the camera will slowly zoom in on it, and it'll be like him behind the door. He's like, "Hey, man, it's just me, your buddy, Mark. I seem to have locked myself out of my door. Would you be so kind to open it for me?"
Open.
And then he'll leave it with 2 options, and it's always weird because it's at the end of like random episodes.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I like about Markiplier so much is he'll just randomly throw in one of those like continuation things. He did it with Lixion. Lixion is his editor for a lot of his videos. Lixion made a game, and they did a whole like choose your own adventure after one of his videos to promote Lixion's game. And it was also entertaining too. It was great. Did you get the Wharfstaff ending or Wharfstaff scene?
Don't think so.
Do you know who Wharfstaff is?
I know who Worf is.
No, Wharfstaff is Markiplier with the pink mustache.
Oh,
that's Wharfstaff.
No, I haven't.
You did not.
No,
so there is a scene where you run into Wharfstaff, like he walks out of a room, he's just like, "Oh, hold on," and he turns and looks, and he's just like, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. I have you scheduled for it." And he looks and he says a date, and then he puts it away, and he's just like, "Oh, this," and then a little bubble opens up, and he's like, "What's that?" He pulls out a knife and he stabs it, and then he like puts it away. He does like a butterfly knife. He has like real finesse with it. After watching that, I'm like, I want a butterfly knife, man. I think of the Punisher when he does the whole like and then hits the guy and then pulls it back. It was like that.
Then he gets stabbed with it later.
Yeah. And the thing that the thing that I love about that scene with Wharfstaff is the date he gives you. If you go onto Markiplier's channel and you look up that single date, is the day that he uploaded a heist with Markiplier. Because in the heist with Markiplier, that scene continues with Wharfstaff, where when Wharfstaff walks in, or no, not when, there's a scene where you run into Wharfstaff, and it's a continuation of that scene. And I was like, whenever I found that out, because like the second, anytime in any show or anything, when someone does 2 of these 3 things: 1, a website; 2, a phone number; or 3, a date, I look up those things because I know they lead somewhere. They freaking lead somewhere. Most of the time, like, was it? I always think about God of War. If you break all the statues, you get the phone number to call and like hear Kratos, and you're like, oh, as a kid, that was awesome. Or
the flood and Breaking Benjamins blow me away.
Yeah, like, well, that was that even.
Yeah, that was that you had to be at a certain part of the map to start getting that song.
Oh yeah. I remember getting that song, but I meant more as like whenever shows or movies like hide like a number somewhere, and you're like, we gotta call that number. I think of it like hug me, don't hug me, I'm scared. There's a scene where there is a number above in a phone booth, and it's like you could call that and get something. Stuff like that.
Mr. Show with Bob Odenkirk, he does that a lot. Where he'll like put a number, he's like, ha, and Wonder Shows did that a lot, where they'd put a number and then you call and they'd be like, hello, and something stupid.
Yeah. Anytime.
And there was
all
that, and what was it? The Saul phone number, the New Mexico Saul Goodman's phone number. If you dialed that, it was Saul on the other line voicemail. He's like, have you been caught in the wrong? I remember when that was live, when Breaking Bad was going on, I was like ecstatic. That was so funny. Yeah,
but like that's why I love, and Markiplier trans it back to in Heist with Markiplier, which, to be honest, to fair, I have not watched a Heist with Markiplier. I wanted to that night, but it was RA like 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, I have to go back. I got work tomorrow, so I never watched that. But maybe that's something that we'll do on another thing, because that's also a really good one people have said too. But Markiplier does this. I think he did a fantastic job with this show. In Space with Markiplier, I enjoyed the absolute smudge out of it. Never did I feel like I was just kind of like, okay, let's get on with it. I was very much just enjoying it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. How would you listen to it? Did you just watch it at your computer? Did you have headphones on? Like, how'd you do it?
So the first time I did it, actually, I was with a person I work with, and we were at my house watching it on the big TV. And then I got right to the part where like Mark was talking about the explosives at the beginning. He was like, "Oh, look at the explosives, just in case." And I was like, "That's foreshadowing." And my individual was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "He's pointing that out because it's going to be a crucial part of something that you're going to probably pick." And he's like, "No, it won't." And then of course you can blow him up. And he's like, "Oh wow, you're right." And I was like, "They do that." I was like, "He did that because it's a cliche of video games. It's a joke." And I was like, that's what's funny about it. So I actually watched it on TV for until I got to the noir scene. And then after that, I used my phone the rest of the time because I found out that was easier. It was easier to click things. I didn't get to use the computer because lately there's just been a lot of stuff going on in my life. So I haven't been really able to play on my computer lately.
So this is why I ask. In the Distractable podcast, Markiplier talks about how they paid a top-end video and what do you call it? Audio engineer to mix everything. And he's like, it sounds beautiful. It's very well done. It's perfect. When that guy got told that most people will watch this on their phone, he visibly got sad hearing it, because you could tell like Mark's like, he's like, you could tell this guy, he's like, this is beautifully well done, and people are going to listen to it on their phone or in little headbuds. And the reason why I asked is I'm like, watch it with like high grade headphones. You can like basses and all that stuff. So make sure to get a couple episodes with that.
Let me rephrase that. I actually have these earbuds that I put in, and they're high quality earbuds. I actually was using those.
I trust you.
No, like, because the thing is like, I'm at work, so I can't really have something really loud up.
Yeah.
Because the problem I have is like, some things I do watch have language and like other things, and the person I take care of, they kind of like don't want him to listen to that kind of stuff. So I just like put these headphones on. Actually, I'll have to show you next week. I'll bring them in. I keep them in my car charging. I use them for the gym and a couple other things, but they're really nice. They're like fake knockoff, like, what are those?
AirPods
or whatever it was.
Yeah. AirPods.
Yeah, AirPods. Yeah, it's like a knockoff of those, but they're like really high end, really nice. But yeah, that's how I listen to it.
I'm just saying, listen to it with really high quality headphones, whichever ones you got, because the sounds of the environment and everything just are very well done. And I know that it got nominated. It did not win. Yeah. And there was also a thing in Distractable where he talked. No, not Distractable. He did a live stream where he talked about it, where he's like, it's funny that you have all these people taking pictures of people. They have no idea who I am because I'm just a YouTuber to them. But if any of these companies do an interview with me and upload it to YouTube or channels, they will automatically get millions of views. He did like an interview with, I think, Vanity Fair or something like that, and that video has like 18 million views. And their other, like, Tom Hiddleston or whatever, like, has like 4 million. He draws in so much more because this is like, that is the
this is his platform.
Exactly.
This is his platform.
And so he's like, it mind blows him how much like media tries to like shy away from YouTubers, even though YouTubers are like basically it. There's two things I want to watch from him. He did a documentary about his mom. And I tried to watch it whenever it was going to come out with like a watch party thing, but unfortunately I was out of town at that time, so I couldn't watch it. And I have to find where to find it. I'm not sure if the website has that on sale. And then he's making a movie now. He's making a full-on movie, which I'm really excited for. It's one of the reasons why he hasn't uploaded stuff in a very long time. but we have no information yet on that. Very little information on that. But he's just putting a lot of time into it. And because of the amount of time and effort he put into this, that is going to be absolutely amazing. And I think it's going to be very fun to watch it when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited for his movie. After watching this and having fun with this, I'm kind of excited to see where he goes.
Yeah.
Especially as a film. And the thing is like people have to come to the realization is formats die out. Like formats and like certain people die out of like certain things. But for sure, one thing is Markiplier is, one of the kings of YouTube. And, and the thing is I think people love him in a general sense of just, he has such a following since like, I forget when he started YouTubing. I think it was like way back in like 2008, something like that.
It was whenever I was in high school. We're actually really close to the same age. Not like super close. He's older than me. But I think I was either a junior or a high schooler. Junior or senior when he was in college. Because in Distractable, they'll talk about stories and they'll say years, and I'm like, wow, we were a lot closer than I realized, which makes sense because he's somewhere around my. He may be like your age, maybe a little maybe younger than that. I could be wrong. Time has gotten away from me, brother. I don't know how old I am at this point.
But what I'm saying is you're also still breeding an audience enough that you're constantly making content and these people are willing to see it. That's a true filmmaker to me. Like take for instance, I am if you don't know people of the podcast world, I am a huge fan of film, or I call them film, but other people make fun of me, and it's a movie. I'm a fan of movies, and those big directors that I used to love, like Kevin Smith. In my opinion, I love Kevin Smith, but he has fallen way out of Kevin Smith, like even being a good filmmaker in the last 10 years. And it's hard. It's not like, you could be like, oh, that filmmaker's going to last it forever. Steven Spielberg didn't last forever. All those didn't last forever. But Mark knows his audience, and he knows how to treat his audience, and he knows how to keep presenting stuff that's fresh and new. And this was something that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it makes me want to watch more Markiplier because of how he stands on things, and he promotes himself as a good guy, and he's good to his community, and he's good to his friends. And you can just tell that this guy had fun making this, and he loves making this stuff, and he doesn't get burnt out. Because, some YouTubers I've seen, they just click the formula, and they keep doing the same formula. I'm not going to name any YouTubers.
He pushes the button. The one thing I will say, and you mentioned this a little bit beforehand, I didn't really want to watch, PewDiePie. And I remember getting into PewDiePie because I was watching his news update stuff. And then I started watching him for other things, and then I stopped watching him. Because I only liked him for whenever he would talk about stuff going on. I didn't really care about the rest of his content. When it came to Markiplier, I watched him because of a game I liked and he played. And then I found myself watching and paying attention to him of more things because of his personality, not because of what he's doing. Yeah. And it went from games to him his podcast to him making these little movies that he does. I don't know, man. I truly think that Markiplier is one of those people that he's great, and a lot of people are lucky that he started making YouTube videos because he's just a really, I don't know how to say it without it being he's a gem to the world, which he kind of is. He is.
He's a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I like him a lot. And charisma, man.
If you guys don't know anything about Markiplier, you need to go look up how Markiplier started doing YouTube videos. He did a tour at one time and did a speech about it where his dad passed, I think, and he sat down in his dad's basement and he noticed there was all these retro video games that him and his dad used to collect, and he sat there for I think 2 weeks. He said that he was in the basement for 2 weeks, and he came up and he said, I know what I want to do now. And he's like, I'm going to start making videos. And thank God that he decided to do that, because I think he brings a lot of joy to people, and I'm for those YouTubers that are the people that are there to entertain us, but also show that there's people that are great out there that are gems like he is. He's a treasure to the YouTube community, and I hope he keeps going. He hasn't done anything that like people are like, whoa,
Yeah,
why would you
he
say
doesn't
that?
have a was it
He's not
controversy?
playing. Yeah, he's not playing
often.
PUBG and going over a bridge and saying some things. But like, I just, there's a lot of controversy with YouTubers mostly. There
can
there's
be
big scandals.
And when it comes to him, it's like kind of untouchable with that because he just does that stuff.
Yeah,
and that's
he's his own thing, and he's very creative, and I can't wait to see more of Markiplier. So
and to be fair, like I also think that the people he's around are also just really good people too. Like he surrounds himself with great people. I really enjoy Bob and Wade. I started subscribing to them after that. Matt Pat's another great person.
Game Grounds.
It's just one of those things that it's like I highly recommend this, and maybe at some point we'll be able to do the heist with Markiplier or even the date with Markiplier. We can do that. No, who knows? Anyways, awesome.
So actually, before we go, one funny story. So Mama Burkhart did not get the concept of like an interactive video.
Oh, she did.
So this is hilarious. If you're watching, I'm sorry, but I have to make it. So like this technology, stuff that old people are just like, I don't know how to do this, and I totally understand. So she's watching Markiplier in space, and she's like, yeah, I get to the part where you have to put the fire out or do life support, but then I have to go on a date with Mark. And I was like, what? Is that like a secret ending? And then she's like, yeah. And then it asked me like, do I want to pay for the dinner or not? And I was like, I've seen this before. It's flipped her to Markiplier goes on a date.
For recommendation. She's going through recommendations and not actually going through like the next video. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so it was.
Did she enjoy the date though?
Yes, I didn't tell her that.
Did she
pay
for the date, or was she?
Whoa. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. She didn't click anything, but then I went over there and showed her how to do it, and she was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, okay.
And it's like, okay, yeah, this is supposed to be all space oriented.
Markiplier, or well, it's supposed to be. That's not how it goes. There's so many things. No, I quit because it messed up on me again, and I went jumping on.
Oh gosh.
We should have just put you in
I think if we would have put her on the phone or a computer, I think that would have been better.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how she watched it. Maybe at some point when I come back, Mom, and we have time to kill, we can just sit down and we'll watch it together, and we'll do our own little choose your own adventure with it, because it's a good old fun time. I love to do it. All right, Austin. I think that basically covers it for this week of In Space Markiplier. We talked a good bit. Honestly, there's so much more we could talk about, like different characters and different like scenes and everything. There's so much to go with this, but that's our time. Austin, what are we going to watch next week?
All right, from one of my favorite creators of all time, he decided to do another show, and it's based off of his.
Markiplier did another show.
It's based off his D&D campaign. This is Matt Groening. Matt Groening, if you know him, he did Futurama and The Simpsons are his two big things.
I thought it was Groening.
Graining, whatever. Everyone pronounces it weird.
I think that's actually a point he mentions. Like,
I think
says it wrong.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So, this has the likes of Billy West, the guy that plays Fry, Joe DiMaggio. John DiMaggio, not Joe. Joe's the baseball player. He was Bender, and then also Eric Andres, and I'm trying to think of the guy from
Andres in it, really?
He plays Lucy, the demon, the black.
No, I've already watched one season of it. I will say this first off. I watched one season of it and then stopped. I didn't continue. How many seasons of it is it now?
It's 4 seasons.
4 seasons. Okay, I thought there were only 2 seasons.
Our boy Matt Berry's in it.
Matt Berry, really?
Yes, he plays Prince Charming in the first season, and he actually is a recurring character throughout the next seasons, but I'm not going to tell you how. There is just a lot of people from the original Simpsons cast and from Futurama cast and everywhere else. But yeah, we're watching Disenchantment Season 1 on Netflix. It is an animated show, and it's about a kingdom. It's like a D&D oriented stuff. Yeah, I laugh a lot in the show. I enjoy the show a lot. So I've been wanting Josiah to watch it for a while. I know you watched the first season. We talked about that when it first came out, but you have not surpassed like the other seasons because I think it gets funnier every season. It's like Futurama, where like the first season's good.
I distinctly
like,
remember why I wasn't a huge fan of it season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll explain that next week. I won't do that now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I appreciate everyone who came and stopped by and listened and watched. Hopefully you guys enjoyed In Space with Markiplier, and hopefully you guys will enjoy some of his other shows. So please, thank you so much for stopping by. And all of you, thank you so much for tuning in.